welcome, it's Deborah from Attic Lane, and today I want to show you the latest Julie Loves collection. This is a subscription kit and it's always very exciting when the box comes through the door. So let's see what we have. This is called Julie Loves Embroidery, and this is an ideas sheet. You always have this included with your kit. It gives you loads of ideas of what you can do with the contents, and there's also some hints at what might be in your box, and there are always really good ideas, really different cards, so I'm looking forward to having a proper look through that. And there is a 6x6 paper pad. These are 5 sheets of 8 designs. They're only printed on one side of the sheet, so you don't have to make difficult decisions about what bit to sacrifice, and the theme is all around embroidery. And if I can show you this closely, maybe you can see that these look like embroidered threads. It's not block colour. It's really clever the way that's been done. There's a beautiful gingham pattern. Who doesn't love gingham? There's lovely matching coordinating colours, lovely little ditzy prints, and I love this colour, just beautiful. And again, it has elements of what we've seen earlier in this pad. There are little embroidery hoops with messages in them, such as be happy, smile, enjoy today, and you could cut those out and put them onto your card. And then here are some more designs. These really do look like they're stitched. It doesn't look like printed paper. I can see lots of decoupage ideas that you could do with those. So that's the paper pad. There are always lots of pop-outs and toppers in these kits, and they're always very generous. So here are three sets all the same, 3 sheets all the same, with pop-out hoops. So these are like embroidery hoops. There are 4 large hoops and 1 little hoop, and if I pop this out, you can see what I mean. It looks just like a little embroidery hoop, doesn't it? Lovely, really clever. The next one, there are 3 of these as well, and these are smaller embroidery hoops, again with different messages on them. But what's clever about this sheet is that there are these little pieces that you can cut out, and they are the tops of the embroidery hoops. So the big ones will do for the sheet that we saw before, and the little ones fit onto these. I think they're just gorgeous. Next, there are 3 sheets of flowers, and this comes with borders as well. So there is this border here in a sort of a mustard colour, and then a lovely blue lacy border you could cut out and use on your card. And all of these little flowers pop up, and they have little flowers in the centre as well. Then there are bigger plain flowers, and again there are 3 of these in a range of colours that match what we saw in the paper pad. Here are 3 more. I told you get loads. There are 3 more. These are block colours, and again they coordinate with the paper pad. And then there are some blank embroidery hoops for you to add however you choose, and there are 3 sheets of these as well. Finally, there is a little treat. There's always a little treat in the box. My treat this time is a handbag. This is a little template of a handbag. There were 3 different types. I think there was an owl, and there was like a little birdhouse, and a handbag, and the one that I got is this one. So I'm just knocking these pieces out, and you can see, so we may be able to do something pretty with the handbag card as well. We'll have a little play around and see what we can make. I'm starting card 1 with a lovely cup of tea and the handbag stencil that came as part of the kit. I've got a piece of white plain card underneath the stencil, and I'm going around the outside of the stencil with a pencil. I'm going to flip it over so that I have a mirror image. I'm not going to go around this side exactly. I want to leave myself a little lip of maybe ½ an inch, because I'm going to use it as a flap so that I can attach the base of this cutout of the stencil to the one on the right hand side, and I hope all will become clear as I go through the making of this. So you can see I've given myself a little bit extra on the top. I've extended those side lines. And I'm not going to cut out the handle because I don't need it. I've chosen 2 of the sheets of paper from the kit. Now I'm going to cut out my stencil. Now that it's cut out, I want to score the line that I need to create the little fold. It's just a little bit neater if I do it with my scoreboard. And now that I have the two pieces, I'll show you how I'm going to assemble them. So that little flap, that fold that we made, is going to be attached to the reverse of the front of the handbag. Those edges were sticking out a little bit on those top corners, so I've just rounded them with my pencil and I'm going to cut them out. Once I'm happy with the shape of my card, I can attach it to the two sheets of pattern paper from the kit, and I'm using my quick grab adhesive to do this. I'm lining up the bottom of the handbag with that bottom line of the sheet, so it gives me less to cut out. Now with this one, I'm putting the adhesive on the reverse of the bag, so as I turn it over you will see that I've got my pencil lines visible, and I'm doing that quite deliberately because I can use the craft knife to go around that line and cut out the handle of the bag, and then I can go around the outside of it with my scissors, and that will give me perfect handbag shape. Now that I have the two pieces, I'm going to add a little bit of extra decoration to the front of the bag, and I'm going to make my own little embellishment, so it's like a little extra flap for the front of my handbag. So I've taken another sheet of paper from the kit and I fold it in half, and I'm just making a random little shape that I will cut out and I will glue to the front of the bag. The fold in the centre is going to be useful in helping me line this up correctly on the bag, and I'm positioning my bag so that it lines up with the lines on my work mat below. This means when I line up the centre fold of my extra element with the lines on my workspace, I know that it will be centred correctly. I'm taking one of the borders from the pop-out die sheets, I'm never sure what to call those, and I've cut that down because I want to add it to the top of my bag. It's got some nice stitching lines on the top and I'm using those too. Anything that sticks out, just cut off the edge. Now I've put adhesive on the top flap and I can adhere that to the front of the bag. And it stands up beautifully. And it's nice and neat on the inside. I've got a tiny little 1/2 inch hole punch and I'm using that to select one of the circles from the lettering sheet, and I've selected A for attic since I spend so much time in my attic, and I've glued that onto the centre. I've added some faux stitching lines with a black pen down the edge, and I've added some glossy accents to the front of that accent, and now that it's dried I can poke it with my finger and I won't destroy it. I've popped out some of the flowers and I'm curling around the edges of those flowers, and I'm going to glue them onto the side of the handbag for a little bit of extra zhuzh. I have 3 little flowers that fit beautifully into each other, and I'm holding it down with my pokey tool, the end of my pokey tool. I've got some gold Nouveau crystal drops and I've just put a gold drop in the centre. And that's my card finished. For card 2, I'm using a craft card base and I'm going around the outside edge with some Distress Oxide ink. I've added some stitching around a piece of a sheet of paper from the kit that I've cut so that it will fit just inside my craft sheet, and again I'm going around the outside edge of that with my oxide ink. I think this is Vintage Photo that I'm using here. I've also cut and layered up 2 pieces of paper from the card kit and I've sewn them down the middle. This little gingham piece I've taken from one of the flower pop-out sets. I've got one of the little round circles that says "Have a great day," and I've cut out a backing from the black craft foam. I use this quite a lot. Instead of using foam pads, I tend to use the craft foam. I find it's easier and you can get exactly the size that you want. It's lovely to cut as well, it's delicious to cut, it's lovely fun. Now I'm going to assemble my card. There's a lot of stitching on this card that I hope you'll be able to see when we look at the detail a bit later on. And it's a bit shabby chic style, but using the lovely colours from the kit. So I'm assembling my circle, and that's going to sit in the top right of my card. I've got my extra little scraps of paper. These have all been torn by hand. They haven't been cut with scissors. I've got another flower that I have assembled using 3 slightly smaller flowers that fit into each other, and I've done exactly the same as I did on card 1, and I've curled the edges. Now I'm adding Nouveau Crystal drops in the middle, and I'm just adding 3 little drops at the top to give it some balance. And that's card 2 complete. Card 3, I'm going to show you a trick. Now, this little pink thing that I have, this pink sponge, is called an oral swab. It sounds disgusting, doesn't it? The reason I've found out about this as a foam tool that you can use for applications when you're making your cards is that one of the reasons I haven't been posting very much recently is because I've had a relative who's been very ill and has been in hospital since before Christmas, and part of her care package required that we have these little oral care things for her, and they stack up very, very well against the finger daubers that have got the foam pads on the end. They're far more robust, and this is how they come. A massive bag of these. I bought these online for her. They're called oral swabs, and you get this huge bag of 250 oral swabs, and it's only about £10. So I'm going to provide a link at the bottom of this video, so if you're interested you can go and find them. I found them to be actually pretty good, and I'm going to continue using them. So I've stolen some of the ones that I got from my relative's care, and I'm hoping also it means that I'll have more time. We've got a light at the end of the tunnel on that situation, so I don't have to have so much balancing of work time and crafting time and care time and hospital visiting time, and hopefully the benefit is we get those oral swabs, which are fantastic foam pads. I've cut out, I've just ripped, I haven't cut it, I ripped some of the gingham paper from the kit, and I've edged it with a nice orangey ink using my fantastic oral foam pads, and now I'm adding dimension by using the craft foam that I used before. I'm adding 2 layers to one of the round greetings that you pop out from the set, and I've already gone around the outside edge of the flowers. You saw me doing that earlier while I was talking over it about the oral swabs. So I've got 2 layers of foam pads that give a nice lift to the sentiment that is sitting inside the flower. I'm gluing the flowers in place. I've done 2 of the largest pop-outs that you can get, and I've also chosen 4 of the smaller flowers, and I'm just going to randomly add those over the card. I've got a nice red crystal drop to go into the centre of each of those flowers, and with that my card is complete. I'm using a white base card, and I've cut out a sheet from the paper pack in the kit so that it's just slightly smaller than the white base, and I've cut out a circle using my Cottage Cuts die set from one of the other sheets of paper, and I've popped out one of the thank yous. I've got my foam sheet, and I've already cut that down to a size that will fit on top of a piece of craft card that will then have a piece of paper on top. So that's how the layer will look. The craft foam gives it a little bit of dimension. The craft card is there to give that paper a little bit of support when I stick it onto the black craft foam. I'm cutting out a little fishtail at the bottom of this. I'm just eyeballing it, I'm not measuring it. I'm hoping it's about right. And then I can add my craft foam on top of that, and I know roughly where I need to cut my fishtail in my craft foam. That's just about right. I need to trim a little bit off the top there. It's hanging over the edge. I'm cutting a section out of the craft foam because I want to leave myself a gap to add some twine. I've glued the craft foam, and I'm going to stick it down onto, this is the reverse of my design, and I'm going to keep a little rectangle and pop that at the top. I'm just going to trim a little bit more off that, I'll glue that into position, and then I'll get some natural twine, and giving that gap in between the craft foam means that the twine won't add any extra bulk when this is all glued in place on the card. I'm tying a knot in my twine with a tiny little loop on it, and then I'm going to add glue to the reverse, and I'm going to stick it onto the front of my card. And then my thank you sentiment will get glued up and added just to the bottom of my fishtail. Nice simple little card. Card 5, I want to use the very beautiful paper that looks like it's a sewn embroidered design. It's really, really lovely. I'm gluing this onto a white base card, which is a side fold on the left hand side. I also have a piece of contrasting paper from the paper pack, which I've cut down to make just a thin strip that will go across the front of my card. I want to do a circle cutout again, but I want to do it slightly differently. So this is my piece of contrasting paper. Here is a pop-out that says happy birthday, and this is my cottage cut circle die set again. And I'm going to cut out a circle shape from that blue strip of paper, but this time I'm going to discard the centre and I'm going to keep the edges. So I want those edge pieces, they are what will create the interest in the design. And when I glue it all in place, you'll see that they make a nice effect for the happy birthday to just sit within. I'll glue those into position, and once that's all fixed in place, my card is done. Another quick, simple card, and there are lots of these sentiments in the kit so you can make a card for any occasion just about. Perfect. My next card uses the embroidered effect paper again, and this is a sheet that I've used, and I've cut 2 each from 2 of the other sheets of the flowers. I've also cut out one of those little top pieces for the embroidery hoop. I've got a white base card. I've already cut out a contrasting paper to sit in the middle of that white card, and I'm using one of the largest of the embroidery hoops as the base for this design. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the first layer of those cut out flowers, and I'm going to use them to cover up the little flowers at the bottom, because I want this to look as if that hoop is coming out of a little bouquet of flowers. I'm going to position them and glue them in place all around the base of the embroidery hoop. I'm going to faff around with this. There's going to be some editing here because I faff around an awful lot, so I'm trying to keep that from you and just show you what you need to know. So I've got all of my first layer is down. Now I'm starting my second layer, and I've added foam pads just to the back of I think it's 3 or 4 of these flowers to add dimension. And I'm positioning them just slightly off from the one underneath, so you get a sense of this being 3D. Once they're all in place, I can position my hoop, which I managed to stick to my my working desk. I can position my hoop onto my card in the centre, and I can glue on that really nice little bit of detail that is the top of a standard embroidery hoop. It's really nice that those have been added and that you can use them on the large and the small embroidery hoops. And I'm completing this card by going over the letters with a clear Wink of Stella pen, so that will make the lettering twinkle. And I hope you can see the 3D effect. For this card, I want to use the pop-out flowers. So this is one of the pop-out flowers from the little card pack. And I'm going around this with a pencil, just half of it, because I'm going to cut out this little piece of paper. I'm going to fold it in half and give myself less cutting out to do. You could also have folded a piece of paper in half and then traced around half the flower, but sometimes I do things the wrong way around. This means that I can cut this flower shape from any of the paper designs from the paper kit. And I want to make a contrast. I want to do something bluey and greeny because they're my favourite colours, and so I want to create a contrast with the blue and the green. And I'm using one of my foam pads on a stick to go around. I can't call them oral cleansing foam, whatever they are, oral swabs, because it just sounds awful. So I'm using my foam on a stick to go around the outside petals and also to go around the outside edge of a very small 3x3 inch square card. I'm making a nice little miniature card. This is one of the larger flowers that I've cut out using one of the larger flowers as my template, and although 4 of those petals pop out over the sides of my card, I'm not worried about that. I quite like that, and I'm just going to cut those off. That way everything will fit neatly within the 3-inch square design. And now I'm going to layer up with the rest of the flowers. So it will go blue flower, green flower, and the green flower is having its little ends twisted, and then blue flower and a little green flower in the centre. So the green flowers are from the kit and the blue flowers are what I've cut using the petals as a stencil. I've got some little dots here. They're from Altenew, and I'll provide a link below, and I'm using these just because it happened to be perfect colour match for my card, and that's my little miniature card finished. The final card today is lovely and plain and isn't scared of white space. I'm using my Cottage Cuts dies to cut out 4 can't count, to cut out 4 of the little letters that say LOVE. I've got a piece of card that is plain white, top folding, and a piece of paper that I've cut from my paper pack, and I've chosen one of the large plain embroidery hoops. There's no lettering on this one. I just want those flowers because they're so pretty, and I want them to really be the standout feature of this card. I'm designing my layout, so I'm going to have my love word around the inside edge, and I'm cutting these flowers in half from the kit because I want them to go underneath the embroidery hoop. The embroidery hoop is raised up with some black craft foam underneath, and once I've finished faffing around with the design and deciding where I want to put everything, I will glue it in place, and that is my card finished. It doesn't need anything else done to it, and you could add any word, you could add a name around the outside, whatever is appropriate for your card. So I'm going to say thank you very much for watching. I'm going to leave you with some close-ups of all of the cards that we've made today, and I hope you'll join me again soon.